Hey ToyFans, welcome back to another week of Project Geek Week. With me this week I've got Greg.
Hey there.
And we've got a bit to discuss this week. We're going to do 3 comic book reviews. That's the most we've done in a show. And we're going to kind of give our opinions of the television comic book shows that were on this past season. But before we get to all that, we're going to go ahead and touch on the geek news. And I guess before we even get the show started, I want to say first, I've been very happy with the reception that our discussion on Marvel and Fox received last week.
Yep.
We've got a lot of comments going on that, a lot of interaction with us, which I think is really, really cool. And I'm glad that you guys enjoyed that segment so much. So definitely, if you're enjoying the show, message us again. We'd love to do more viewer questions. Sadly, we don't have any this week for you guys. Maybe next week we will. But yeah, just really liked how we've really got a lot of fan engagement now. And I think that's great. I think that really helps us, and it hopefully helps you guys enjoy the show that much more. So let's go and talk about our first news story for the week. The news story came out via Flickering Myth. Now, I'm not familiar with that site, but IGN reported on this. And it's that actress Willa Holland, who plays Thea, Queen, on Arrow. She had stated that there were some plans to do more with Harley Quinn on the show Arrow, but that DC executives kind of nixed that idea. She actually said, we had big plans for Harley, but I guess something came down from DC execs that told us to shut it down. Those were the words that she used, was shut it down. I thought that was...
And I think she also said it's not going to happen, basically.
Oh, did she even go that far? Okay.
So, yeah. And in case anybody hasn't watched the show, in one of the Suicide Squad episodes, I think there have been a few of them now, we saw kind of a sneak peek of Harley Quinn. We even heard her talk.
Yeah, and I think they even got Tara Strong to come in and reprise the role.
Yep. I mean, I don't know if they were planning on doing more in that episode or if they were just dropping her there and going to have her show up later. It would be interesting because if I remember the episode correctly, it's the one where Floyd Lawton and Cupid and Diggle and his wife, Lila, if I remember right.
Can't remember her name.
Yeah, they go off on a mission together. It would have been interesting if Harley Quinn had been in the Cupid role instead of Cupid.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they were planning on doing that. I just think that would have been cool.
Well, and it's interesting too. I mean, they were definitely setting up for Harley Quinn, which not typically a Arrow villain, but definitely as they've tried to make Arrow Batman, it would have made sense, I guess, to have her on the show. But it's believed that this maneuver is being done to kind of take focus off of Harley Quinn on the television side of things, so that she's more important when she shows up in the Suicide Squad movies.
Do you think that's? I hadn't even thought of this before, but in the last Suicide Squad episode, they sort of faked out Deadshot's death.
Oh no.
Do you think that has anything to do with it?
I hadn't heard anything on that. I guess we'll find out next season. But what I find interesting about this overall, I guess, or what I find, dare I say, controversial about this, is that when Warner Brothers was announcing all the movies that they wanted to do, and they were saying, we're going to have Flash, we're going to have Aquaman, we're going to have Batman, we're going to have Superman, and they were casting all these roles, when they announced all these movies the same day that the Flash television series premiered, they said that there's going to be another actor playing Flash, and everybody's like, wait, what's going on? Grant Gustin's just getting started. Like, is he not going to be the movie Flash? Why not? And then they came out and said, somebody from DC, may have been Kevin Tsuchihara, I don't remember who exactly, came out and said that these universes are in fact separate. There are no plans to cross them over, and they claimed that that thought had never crossed their minds, which I gotta call BS on that, but that's a whole other thing. So if they were so adamant that the movie and the television universes are separate and stand on their own, and that's why they're going to have Barry Allen in both the television series and in the movies, why then does it matter that Harley Quinn's going to show up on the Arrow TV show if she's going to be in Suicide Squad?
And see, that's why I was going with the Deadshot thing, because I was going to say, what's so special about Harley Quinn? We have Deadshot on the show.
Yeah.
But I guess they've sort of killed him off.
Yeah.
And we also have Katana on the show.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But if I'm not mistaken, she's gone now.
Yeah, they've basically also sent her off. So it's possible they're just cutting all of those ties now. And if I think through it now, I can't think of anybody who was in that famous Suicide Squad image that was leaked or was released.
Yeah.
That is still on Arrow.
Yeah, Deathstroke's not in that lineup. Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. Almost like they're pairing up the movie to kind of be the only source for these characters.
That would be really too bad.
I gotta say, I'm not a fan of that. I mean, the shows, frankly, if they're gonna keep things separate, keep things separate. Don't be afraid to have similar characters on each property. I mean, what does that mean for the Flash once the Flash movie's in theaters? Are they going to somehow have half a season without Grant Gustin? I mean, or are they going to... What are they going to do? I don't know. It's just kind of weird that they would make that choice, that they would even care that much.
So do you think there is something special about Harley Quinn? Because the only special thing I know about her, basically, as far as just her being a character, is that she's the only Batman character that was introduced in TAS and then crossed over into the comics.
Correct, yeah.
So does that give her some sort of special
And TAS,
place?
guys, if you don't know, stands for the animated series. We're referring to Batman the animated
really
series.
popular animated series from the 90s if you haven't seen it.
Definitely check it out.
Yes. But do you think that the fact that she is popular in that way makes her more of an outlier?
I don't know if I'd call her an outlier. I think maybe they just don't want to risk the chance because it's kind of a gamble that DC as a movie company or Warner Brothers as a movie company is taking. I think it's kind of a gamble that they're doing the Suicide Squad movie, and I think their concern is we don't want to give people an alternative way to catch at least Harley Quinn. At the same time, we're trying to promote this movie, so they just don't want to compete with themselves. We'll see what that means again for Flash down the line, or for other Arrow villains for that matter. Does that mean we're not going to get these characters back on Arrow? Who knows? But I think that's ultimately what it comes down to, is they want to own the moment when Harley Quinn's on the screen. They don't want you to be able to say, well, I see her on TV. Dare they have the television version even be better than the movie version? And I think that's a real problem they're having with Flash right now.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people have said that Grant Gustin did such a great job that it's kind of sad that we're going to have Ezra Miller in the movies.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, but Grant's kind of earned it at this point.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So, I think that might be what they're trying to avoid, is another situation like that, which is unfortunate, again, for the television series. And I guess we'll see how that develops moving forward, what other characters kind of show up or don't show up. It'll be interesting to see how that affects Gotham. I mean, if they're really, and we'll talk about this more in our series review, but if they're really seeming to show more of Batman, or at least tease Batman for the first time on the show, what does that mean when he's got an obvious presence in Suicide Squad and the Batman v Superman movie coming out? Right. So, very interesting bit of news there. I'm very disappointed that we aren't getting Harley Quinn on Arrow, because honestly, Arrow could use some help right now, I think. And that really, I think, would have helped the show along. So, let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. While we're talking about Gotham, we got some casting news. Not really casting, a little bit of casting, but we also have a new sort of position for an actor on the show. Now, as we were watching Gotham through the season 1, I actually missed about 6 or 7 episodes in a row. I had seen the pilot in the first 3 episodes, and then I stopped watching, and then I joined in to like episode 12 or something like that. I basically missed everything with Harvey Dent. So, and I found it interesting that now the actor Nicholas D'Agosto is being announced as being a series regular for season 2. Since I completely missed him on the show, tell me why this is important for season 2.
They haven't really, I mean, we've seen his coin. And they always shot him with like half of his face dark or something, but we haven't really seen any setup to Two-Face yet. Okay. So I guess there's nothing from season 1 that you're really going to miss out on. I think he helped Gordon solve a couple cases. Okay. Well, speaking of somebody who missed his episodes, they never seemed like there was this lingering Harvey's coming back to the show. Like, they never even mentioned him from what I remember. Yeah, no, I mean, he wasn't that huge of a presence in season 1. Really more of an ancillary character. So I guess this announcement really just confirms that he's going to have a bigger presence in season 2, and probably that they're going to go the Two-Face route with him sooner rather than later. And you think so? Okay. Yeah. Do you think we'll get Two-Face by the end of season 2? It's entirely possible, especially with how the Riddler plotline turned out. Oh my goodness, yeah. So, all right, well then on the Gotham tip too, according to TV Line, there was some casting that had gone out for 2 new villain characters on the show. Now, I'm going to read the description for these roles, and we'll see if we can figure out who they're talking about. So the male role is described as intelligent, cultured, highly articulate, extremely attractive, both seductive and threatening. The female is described as a sexy knockout in her mid to late 20s in age. So that's kind of a non-news story, to be honest, because it's like, that's the most generic description for a male and female role. Like, they don't give you anything, even hint as to what these characters are. Well, and all I can think with that description of the male first is that kind of sounds like what they were going for with the ogre. Yeah, it does actually, doesn't it? Yeah. I can't think of anybody else in the Batman universe that, sticks out as, oh, this must be this person. Yeah, right? I mean, I'm trying to think of anybody too. I mean, all the Batman rogue galleries tend to be somewhat monstrous creatures. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it'd be really strange, and I don't think the TV budget can support it, but if they try to have like Clayface on the show, he was like a really attractive actor until he was horribly disfigured. So I don't know if they're going that route. Was he intelligent, cultured, and highly articulate? Not from what I've seen. Yeah. But... So I guess we'll see where that goes. And then you've got a sexy knockout in the mid to late 20s range. And let's talk about the mid to late 20s range. Gordon is older than that. And I think a lot of the villains we've seen so far have been older than that. So if they're getting a villain that's in the mid to late 20s age, does that mean we're going to get a time jump in season 2? I've definitely considered that as a possibility. It would be strange if the male is Batman and the female is Catwoman.
Oh, I didn't even think about the Batman.
Yeah.
Oh, so like they would just completely cut the kid out.
Well, what they could do is if they did do a time skip, they still have flashbacks to the timeline we're familiar with. So you still have David Mazouz showing up.
I don't know about that, man. Like, I mean, flashbacks worked really well for Arrow in season 1, and I think it's been a detriment to the show since season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And they may have some cool flashback moments, but if we're constantly teasing things or figuring things out in the future and then having to watch a flashback to get the setup, that could get really old really quickly.
It's also going to be weird if they do that, which I'm guessing they're not going to do that. But if they did do that, it would be weird with Sean Pertwee, Alfred, being in two different plot lines. Like they'd have to have age makeup, and there'd be a lot of stuff to work through. Yeah. Same for Gordon too. They'd have to have some sort of aging up makeup.
Well, they just put a mustache on him in the future and take it off in the past.
Especially if they have the female in mid to late 20s. We're talking about at least like a 10-year jump for the Catwoman actress.
Yeah. Who's actually what, 15?
Yeah, something like that.
So that would be consistent then.
It would. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we're onto something. I don't know. It's just
and
pretty
I guess,
fascinating.
To kind of hook off of discussion we were having a little bit earlier before the show, it's possible with DC having seen the success of the Arrowverse, you've got Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl is going to be coming out soon. They may think, we really need to get Batman on TV, and it's worth time skipping on Gotham just to have that. I don't know, but...
I really feel like that's a case of the story not coming first.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I would completely agree. If they did that, I feel like they'd, in a sense, be sacrificing Gotham just to get Batman on TV.
But with the way, and I don't know, do we have to worry about spoilers for the end of the season? I mean, it's aired.
No, I wouldn't say so.
Okay, so with the way season 1 ends and Bruce seemingly finds the Batcave, it'd be very interesting if they jump ahead 10 years in season 2 and they say, well, here's the state of things now. Mm-hmm. Or I guess, it could just be a show that constantly parallels. Like with Heroes, they kept going to the future with this horribly dystopic future that they never really got to on the series. But they never got to that point. But maybe that could be a situation where it's constantly jumping back and forth and we're just seeing the origin of stuff and the payoff. I don't know. So it's very interesting to see that this is the sort of casting that's going out. And honestly, it wasn't until this moment here, I was assuming these would be villains. But maybe they're not villains. Maybe they are Bruce and Selina. So
it's possible.
We'll see how that goes. So some interesting news there on the Gotham. Guys, if you have any thoughts on this, any characters, definitely let us know in the comments. I'm curious to see what other people think too. But what do you think of Batman and Selina actually being the ones that they're trying to cast?
Well, and I was trying to go through just the female villains I know in Batman. You've got like Catwoman and Poison Ivy.
Well, and see, they can't do Poison Ivy, right?
Because she's already established. Exactly. Yeah. So it's like there's a lot of options that just aren't there.
Yeah.
Unless they're going to do a time skip. So who's going to show up in their mid to late... What sexy knockout in their mid to late 20s is going to show up and not interfere with the timeline? Right. I don't know.
I mean, it's not like they can bring Barbara Gordon in. No, the daughter, right? Yeah. So, pretty interesting stuff. So we'll definitely see how that one develops. Gets me a little more intrigued maybe for season 2 of Gotham than I was originally.
Oh, and also, I mean, we can touch on this more when we get to the series review, but the last thing I would say on that is that a time skip would really be kind of disappointing at this point, just because of everything they've got set up.
Yeah.
Penguin is like finally in place. Riddler has just had his big turning point. Maroni got killed. Like there are lots of things that we want to see what happens now, not skip ahead 5 or 10 years and see what happens. So yeah.
So we'll talk more about that, I guess, as we get to our opinion of the series. So let's move on to the next bit of news then. Bryan Singer, God bless this man for having a Twitter account. I just got to say, he's constantly giving us content from the movies, and he's leaking his own stuff from his movies intentionally to get people excited. So I love this. But he showed a picture of himself directing in what appears to be a sewer or some sort of underground cabin, along with the quote, shooting Caliban's place of business, which I think is amazing. So there's a few things we can take from this comment. First of all, this underground cavern that he's in, are these Morlock tunnels? Seems like they are.
Yeah.
Caliban, a famous Morlock who's known for being able to detect the mutant abilities detect other mutants. Caliban, of course, is also a mutant that has a storied history with Apocalypse. He did actually become a horseman of Apocalypse. And basically, does this mean that we're going to get Storm squaring off with Callisto in the Morlock tunnels? Who knows? Storm's in the movie. We haven't had any announcements for Callisto yet. I wonder if this means that we're going to just see Caliban, which I think would be a little disappointing, but also kind of cool if they go down to the sewers and meet this one mutant, and maybe that's just because they don't want to go into all the Morlocks stuff. They just happen to run into Caliban in the sewers. But it would be really cool, too, if we actually get the idea of the Morlocks.
This is another, I mean, it feels like every time we have X-Men Apocalypse updates, I'm saying this, but they're packing so much into this movie.
Yes, they are.
It's like, how is this not going to end on, like, to be continued, basically?
Yeah.
How is there not going to have to be a second movie? It's either going to be just so chock full that you have to watch it multiple times to get everything out of it, or they're going to set up a whole lot of plot threads to resolve in X-Men Apocalypse 2 or whatever they decide to call it.
Well, and we know that Fox is very interested in franchising this and getting sequels. Mm-hmm. We already know that we have Deadpool coming next year. We've got Gambit coming next year. Maybe this somehow ties into Gambit. Who knows? Also, this was a news story that I think broke before I did the show notes for last week, and we never really commented on it, but there's something going on with New Mutants, and they want to do either a television show or a movie. I don't know that it's 100% confirmed which one it is yet, so they could potentially be leading into something with that. So, I would hate to see this movie end in a two-parter, or to be continued, especially when at this point, Bryan Singer has not hinted that he's coming back after this movie, and that a lot of the actors seem to think that this is their last film. I mean, Jennifer Lawrence especially, this is her final film. I'll be very surprised if we get her in anything after this.
If they did do like the need for a part 2, I mean, they would the actor contracts would be such a nightmare. They would have to end this movie in some way such that they don't have to bring those people back,
right?
But could if they wanted to, I guess.
Or they could just pull a Star Trek Best of Both Worlds, screw everything over, and you'd be like, well, we'll figure it out next time.
Well, let's set up something that's really interesting and then worry about how to resolve that later.
Yeah. So, but I love that we're getting, like, at least the sewers and the Morlock tunnels. If it's not the Morlocks, it'll probably be a scene where it's just Caliban by himself. But and again, Bryan Singer didn't even confirm that Caliban's in the movie. But the fact that he says shooting Caliban's place of business, it seems like we're getting that guy. And perhaps we now know who another one of Apocalypse's horsemen are. So with that in mind, I just got to say really quick, he's likely going to have 4 horsemen. If Caliban's in the movie, he's going to have to be a horseman. What's that?
Which one?
I think he played he was War, Pestilence, or Famine. He wasn't Death, or maybe I'm way off. I don't know. I think Archangel's going to have to be the Angel of Death. I think that's what he was when he first appeared. Wolverine, when he was a horseman, was the Horseman of War. So Caliban would have to be Pestilence or Famine, and I don't know which one he would be. But then that leaves the fourth horseman, and I don't know who that'd be unless they make it Mystique. Would be consistent with how Days of Future Past ended. If Mystique's a horseman and she carried off Wolverine, maybe she was already in league with him. Who knows?
I've got to think if it's a Morlock, it's going to be Pestilence, just because they're more of the
disgusting gross type of...
They give you that kind of that disease vibe.
Yep. So, but really cool stuff. They're still filming the movie right now, and I'm sure we're going to get more pictures and whatever coming out from Bryan Singer. So,
a random thought.
Yes.
Do you think we'll see Blob again?
I don't know.
I was just thinking, who would be Famine? Well, it could be ironic to have someone like Blob be
that's true.
The Horseman of Famine.
I wonder if at this point, because Old Man Logan seems like the best possible story option for Wolverine 3 if it's Hugh Jackman's last movie. They can't use the Hulk, and the Hulk is a pretty big character in Old Man Logan. He's kind of like this slack-jawed hillbilly who kind of has his own territory that he runs with his Hulk family, and there's a few confrontations between Wolverine and the Hulk. And of course, that harkens back to Incredible Hulk 181 and like the long feud that they've had. But they can't use Hulk in a Wolverine movie. So I wonder if they're going to use the Blob in place of the Hulk. That way they get a giant guy that Wolverine can square off against. So I think if we see Blob again, it may not be until Old Man Logan, but we'll see. That'd be kind of interesting. So let's go ahead and move on then to some news we had for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. Now, a lot of stuff has come out recently on this movie. The first thing we want to touch on is that Brian T., famous for Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, he was also in the movie The Wolverine. He played Mariko's arranged husband before Wolverine kind of broke that marriage up.
Right.
He was recast as, well, he wasn't recast, but Shredder was recast, and Brian T. is playing him. Also, Brittany Ishibashi was also cast, or was Karai recast as Karai. Now, the reason I put a question mark there is that there was a woman in the first Ninja Turtles movie who was middle-aged at best, who was running around with Shredder. I don't think they ever identified her as by name, but Turtles fans would obviously assume that she's Karai because she's hanging out with Shredder, and she's female and Japanese, so it just seems like it would fit. The actress who's playing Karai now is younger than the actress who was playing, presumably, Karai in the first movie. Also, it's worth noting that Brian T. Very much is different from the man they had in the first movie. on that topic too, we just want to know, I guess I'm curious, what happened to the Shredder and the Karai from the first movie? Have they essentially rebooted these characters from the first movie to the sequel? Are these going to be a different Karai, a different Shredder? I don't know. I wasn't personally a big fan of the way Shredder was handled in the first movie. I think he was very underused, and he amounted to nothing more than just a henchman for a businessman named Aaron Sachs, which I thought was a real letdown. Mm-hmm. So if they're going to reintroduce the Shredder mythology and Karai, I guess that's cool if they're bringing in new actors, but we have the issue that they've kind of already had them in the first movie. I'm just curious to see how that plays out, but I do like the casting on these.
Is it possible that the Shredder's female sidekick from the first movie is supposed to be like his wife or something?
They don't play it that way.
Okay.
She very much seems to be somebody who takes orders from him.
Mm-hmm.
And Shredder and Karai typically have a cold relationship, so there's not a lot of love there. So it would have made sense if she was just sort of the general of his army or the lieutenant of his army of foot soldiers. Mm-hmm. And on the topic of foot soldiers, I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit. Along with the images of Shredder and Karai on the set of the film, which actually came out via Coming Soon, we got our first look at what appears to be a foot soldier from the new movie. So in the first movie, the foot soldiers were actually like a paramilitary group that ran around with automatic weapons and had flak jackets on and like clear mask. Now it seems like the foot are actually ninjas. So perhaps we'll find out that the Shredder and all that in the first movie were a sham and that the real guys are in town now this time in the more traditional form of the Turtles villain. So I kind of like that. Also, we had some images show up that show you what... first of all, Rocksteady and Bebop are in the movie. We've known that, but now we have images of them.
Mm-hmm.
We have images...
In human form.
In human form, yes. We have images of Gary Anthony Williams playing what's obviously Bebop. And if you look at the photo I'm putting up on the screen right now, he's got the nose ring, he's got the mohawk. I mean, he's got like spikes around his wrist. He looks like a pre-mutated Bebop. My only problem with the image is that the mohawk, I think, looks very fake. Mm-hmm. It does not seem like this is this man's actual hair. Yeah. So it looks very much like a glued-on hairpiece, but he does have the look, and I like that. Then we have WWE superstar Sheamus, who is apparently playing the human form of Rocksteady. So I'm not really sure where they're going with this character. As far as I know, and I don't watch a lot of professional wrestling these days, but Sheamus has a thick Irish accent, or is it Scottish? It's Scottish accent. Irish?
I would think Irish.
Okay.
Like Sheamus, but...
So maybe it's Irish, but basically, unless he's been faking that in interviews and in the ring, either Rocksteady's going to be Irish or he's just going to change his voice for the movie. Yeah. I'm curious to see how that plays out. But also, Sheamus doesn't strike me as the type of wrestler who can turn actor as easily as, say, The Rock can. I don't know that he's ever acted in anything really aside. This might be his first movie. I don't know.
Yeah.
So very interesting there. And
even The Rock had a first movie.
Even The Rock had a first movie, but The Rock was also...
What was it, The Rundown? Was that the first one?
I think The Rundown... It was either the Get Shorty sequel or The Rundown.
Yeah.
One of the two of those. And... but The Rock had so much charisma. I mean, he owned the microphone. People loved him universally, so...
Yeah, I don't watch WWE anymore, so I just don't know if Sheamus has that presence.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how this kind of plays out. And I should mention that the photos of Gary Anthony Williams and Sheamus as Rocksteady and Bebop came via Daily Mail. So some interesting news on that movie. I'm glad to see it kind of moving along, but I'm really curious what they're doing with Shredder and Karai. It just kind of confuses me that they seem to be rebooting the villains from the first movie in the second movie.
Well, it sounds like if you're having Shredder and Karai and you're bringing in Bebop and Rocksteady, they're trying to basically turn it into a more traditional Turtles.
Analogous to the animated series.
Yeah.
I almost wonder, too, how much the sequel is actually going to even acknowledge the first movie. Mm-hmm. So... But yeah, so some pretty cool stuff there, and I'm sure we'll get more of that too as it's filmed.
Do you think they'll mutate Bebop and Rocksteady in the movie?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't think they'll hold that off?
No, I think by the halfway point they're going to be mutated.
Yep.
So, all right, so let's go ahead and move on to our comic book reviews for the week. Now, the first book that we actually are going to review came out last week, not this week, but I just didn't pick it up till this week, is Ultimate the End #1. This is a book that's written by Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley. Now, that's very significant that those guys are actually doing the writing and the art on this book. Brian Michael Bendis was there at the beginning of the Ultimate Universe, as was Mark Bagley. They were the team that brought us Ultimate Spider-Man, the first Ultimate Universe book that came out. Brian Michael Bendis would go on to help launch the Fantastic Four. Mark Millar worked on Ultimate X-Men, but Brian Michael Bendis did eventually write the X-Men for a spell. But Mark Bagley and Brian Michael Bendis actually set the record for the most consecutive issues by a creator and an artist on a book, running from Spider-Man #1 to like Spider-Man #109 or something like that. I mean, it was an impressive run. So it's really fun, at least for me as a fan of that series, to see these guys teamed up again for what's essentially the end of the Ultimate Universe storyline that takes place during Secret War. So with that fun stuff out of the way, this book actually features the 616 heroes and the Ultimate heroes meeting on the Triskelion, which, if you guys have seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or any of the Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff, the Triskellion's kind of like a S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, that exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Didn't it get destroyed in Captain America Winter Soldier?
Yeah, a helicarrier definitely crashed into it.
Yeah, maybe not completely destroyed.
Yeah, so, and I think they even visited the Triskelion in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for an episode, if I'm not mistaken. So the Triskelion doesn't exist in the 616 universe, at least I don't think it does. If it was retroactively placed there. So definitely a setting familiar to the Ultimate Heroes. But they have this big meeting about what's going on with this world incursion, and we see a lot of familiar faces show up. Mm-hmm. So I guess let's speak first on a story level. Greg, since you're not as familiar with the Ultimate Universe, how did you enjoy the story?
I actually enjoyed it, I want to say more than I expected, although I didn't really come in with that many expectations. It was nice to see, there was a little bit of action at the beginning with Spider-Man and Spider-Woman, mm-hmm. But it was also nice to see like the interactions between the two different universes of people.
Yeah.
They each have their own perspective. It was great how Tony didn't want to take responsibility for what happened. He's like, why is everybody blaming me? But and Spider-Man not wanting everybody to know his name when most of them know it already.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, you all know that I'm Peter Parker. And then Hulk's like, well, now we all know your name.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was interesting. There was some good humor. I didn't entirely understand everything that was going on. Mm-hmm. But I have read a little bit of Secret War, so I know that everything got reset, and now I guess all these people are stuck here. They're trying to figure out what to happen. There was a big explosion or something. That was the flashback, though, wasn't it?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, showing how everything ended up this way. I look forward to whatever we're going to see in the future.
Yeah, I mean, the book definitely ends with the police force that's been established in Secret Wars #2 with all the Thors.
The Thors, yeah.
So that's definitely, I don't know what they're going to do if they're... I mean, these guys essentially seem to be meeting when they're not supposed to be, maybe. So maybe the Thors are going to come in and kind of deal with that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the humor at the beginning when Punisher was just frustrated with what was going on. He's like, I could just take all these guys out right now. We don't have to worry about this. So I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Brian Michael Bendis is a pretty humorous writer when he's doing the funny business. So I enjoyed that. And again, it was really awesome to see Mark Bagley doing artwork on Spider-Man again. And I loved in this book, Ultimate Spider-Woman is now known as Black Widow. She has a totally different costume. We saw it in Spider-Verse, but Mark Bagley actually designed the original Ultimate Spider-Woman costume, the red suit with the white spider on the front. And either he didn't get the memo since coming back and doing more Marvel books, or he just wanted to put Spider-Woman in the costume that he invented for her. But I loved seeing that costume on her again because I like it better than the Black Widow look.
Yeah.
That is a bit of an inconsistency story-wise, but I still liked that it was there. There were some other inconsistencies I noticed too, which were kind of weird. Cyclops is there representing the X-Men along with Emma Frost and Storm. Now, Brian Michael Bendis writes the Uncanny X-Men. He just, a couple weeks ago, wrote an issue of Uncanny X-Men where Cyclops quits the team and says, I was wrong the whole time. I should have followed Wolverine's ideology. All you X-Men go your separate ways, and I'm just going to stop doing what I do. And everyone's like, okay, I guess we'll just leave. And with that issue having happened a couple weeks ago, it's weird that he seems to be there representing the 616 X-Men. And what's also weird is that Emma Frost, who for the last several years in comics has worn this sort of like black villainous looking outfit, is now suddenly back in the white outfit that she wore basically before Bendis started writing the X-Men and really before Schism, hit, or before Avengers vs. X-Men happened.
Are these supposed to be contemporaneous, like Uncanny X-Men?
That's what I wonder. I thought they were, but maybe not. Then we have something interesting with Spider-Man. In the Ultimate Universe, everybody knows who Spider-Man is because Peter Parker famously sacrificed himself. But this appears to be the 616 Spider-Man, who's been running with the Avengers in the 616 for a while. I'm kind of surprised that certain Avengers didn't know who he was because I swear I thought they did.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of weird. That also makes me wonder if this is maybe a different Spider-Man. I don't know.
Well, and he said something about, was it the other Spider-Man or something? He had to die for everyone to know his name.
And they're referring to the fact that the Ultimate Spider-Man had to die. Because when Ultimate Spider-Man died, that's when everyone finally found out it was Peter Parker. That was shortly before Miles Morales took over. So there was this big thing about, wow, it was just a kid this whole time.
But I know we've talked previously, and maybe this is just me not knowing the lore well enough, that during Civil War, Spider-Man takes off his mask and says, I'm Peter Parker, and I've been Spider-Man since I was 16 years old. So has that been reset?
Yes.
Since then? Okay.
Yes, thanks to One More Day.
Okay.
That horrible, horrible Spider-Man story that happened shortly after Civil War.
There we go.
So, in fact, as a person who was reading New Avengers at the time, there was an issue of New Avengers where as the tension is... Or no, actually... I'm forgetting the exact setting, but they know he's Peter Parker. They kind of figure it out around the beginning of the formation of the team. Then one more day happens, and suddenly nobody knows who he is, and they comment on it in the book, like, I wish you'd just tell us who you are. And then as they lead into a book called Secret Invasion, which had to do with the Skrulls infiltrating the Marvel Universe, there's this big moment in New Avengers where Spider-Man reveals his identity to the team so they can trust him. It's like, man, it was just like 12 issues ago that these guys were all saying, I know who you are. It was just, there were weird things going on. So, but yeah, it was just kind of weird. I thought there was some strange story inconsistencies, especially considering the X-Men and that Bendis has been writing the X-Men. I don't get why Cyclops was representing the X-Men, but anyway, I did enjoy the story overall, and I look forward to the next issue.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, definitely a book you guys want to check out, especially if you're a fan of the Ultimate Universe. This is probably going to be its swan song, short of Miles Morales existing and other characters existing post-Secret War in the Marvel 616. So definitely check that book out. Moving onward, though, we do have All New Hawkeye #3. So we've been covering this book since the beginning. Now, All New Hawkeye #3 was written by Jeff Lemire, again, with the artwork still by Ramon Perez. And I'm really still digging the art on this book. And this book, I think, did an interesting contrast, where previous books have done a couple of panels in the present and then several pages in the back, in the past. Mm-hmm. This book pretty much the whole way through had present day panels at the top and then kept showing flashbacks at the bottom of every page. Yep. And I would say that the flashbacks didn't always go along with what was being said above.
But then at times they synced up perfectly.
Perfectly, yeah. So I really, really like that sort of take. I honestly think I prefer that to the way they were doing the storytelling before. So if we get that again in future issues, I think I'll like that quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, I wasn't always sure what they were trying to say with the lower panels.
Exactly.
Even if it was supposed to relate to what was above.
Yeah.
But there were a few things I like. I liked and I don't know if I just didn't notice this previously, but on the front page, you had each of the Hawkeyes cross out and leave a little message to the other Hawkeye.
Yes.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. And then the fact that they were arguing over who's the real Hawkeye.
Yes.
That was good.
Well, and I love, too, the children that Kate Bishop saves in the first issue. Their interactions, I think, with the Hawkeyes are pretty great, too. Yeah. I mean, they're basically saying, like, we don't like the Clint Hawkeye. And he's like, oh, come on, guys. So
Katie Hawkeye is the one, and Clint Hawkeye is the other.
Yeah, so I thought this was kind of a fun issue. Yeah. And I love the Hawkeye book in general because even when it was being written by Matt Fraction, there was just so much humor and so much fun to it. It wasn't all about the superheroes, but just about the character dynamics.
It's interesting that you've got the swordsman on the front there.
Yeah.
Because he really didn't show up until the end, I guess.
Right.
When it seemed like Hawkeye and his brother were playing with a dog, and I guess they did something wrong. They watched the show.
They went to the circus. They watched the circus show instead of working during the show. And it almost seems like the swordman was going to turn abusive.
Well, he said he's going to punch them or something, and then it shows a panel with Hawkeye on the target board and having knives being thrown all around.
Yes, I think that's the cover for next month's issue. So yeah, it's just kind of interesting. We saw a situation where they were being basically taken away from an abusive father figure, and now they've met the swordsman who initially seemed nice. I'm just curious to see what's going to happen with that.
I think maybe this is wrong, but we'll see in the future. I think he's being more playful than mean, where he's kind of like, ha ha ha, since you've done something wrong, I'm going to punish you. And then it's like, now he puts them in this situation where they might be scared, but he's completely in control of what he's doing.
Okay. But great book. I enjoyed the segments with Maria Hill. She seems to be frustrated every time she works at any Marvel heroes.
Yeah, and also I must have missed this at some point, but apparently Hawkeye's deaf.
Is he?
Yeah. Well, they had him with some special hearing aid. Maria Hill made a reference to how Fury, I think, made him a special hearing aid, and that's how he was able to hear her.
Oh, that might be at the end of Fraction's run. So Fraction, I've read probably 15 to 20 issues of Fraction's Hawkeye book. I haven't finished it. So maybe something happens at the end of that. Let us know in the comments, guys, what actually happened there. But I didn't even pick up on that. I just assumed it was his field transceiver or something, receiver that he was still wearing.
Well, I did some research online and figured out that apparently he's deaf. I don't know how that happened.
Okay.
But yeah, so now he's not deaf anymore.
Okay. Well, that's got to be something that happens at the end of the original book then. Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. But definitely still a really fun read, this book. And the art, I think, is still something really special and really unique that we don't see in other comic books.
Yep. And I'm definitely interested to see. You knew that the Hawkeyes were going to break out those kids. It was pretty clear that was where it was going. So, it'll be interesting to see where that goes in the future.
Yeah, I wonder, this book's kind of got a small supporting cast right now. It's basically got Kate and Clint and Maria Hill, I guess, to some extent, and that's kind of the cast of the book. We'll see how much Swordsman plays into it, but and I guess there's Lucky the dog. I'm sure we'll get more of him. Yeah. But yeah, well, I almost wonder if these kids are going to be held at Hawkeye's house and be a recurring element to the story.
You know that it's going to have to backfire on them in some way.
Soon, absolutely,
because it hasn't yet, basically.
Yeah, they made a clean getaway from the helicarrier, and it's not like they don't know where Hawkeye lives, where Clint lives. So yeah, we'll probably get more of that, I guess, in the next issue. But a great book, guys. Definitely be checking out All New Hawkeye. It's a fun read. So the third book we want to talk about this week is one that came out about a year ago, maybe a little bit longer. It's just one that's taken me forever to track down because it was a promotional issue. It hasn't been reprinted in anything. And when it was originally released, it was a very small run. So we want to talk about Star Trek Flesh and Stone. Now, IDW, I think, has been doing great work with Star Trek since they got the license. This particular book is pretty special. It's, I guess, a promotional issue for Qualcomm and some sort of tricorder that they had crowdfunded or done something. There's an ad in the front. I caught it at the end there that the whole reason this book even happened was as a promotion for Qualcomm. Notice that. So, but what's special about this story is that, well, first I should say, I guess, it's written by Scott and Dave Tipton, who I think are the best Star Trek writers working at IDW. Mike Johnson does fine with the New Kirk stuff, but when it comes to knowing the lore and getting references and really getting the voice of the characters, Scott and Dave Tipton, I think, are fantastic for the Next Generation DS9 era crew. So I'm glad that they were writing it.
I thought they did well with Bones, too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And then we have the Sharp brothers. I'm not as familiar with them. Typically, Scott and Dave Tipton work with, I think Dave Messina is the guy's name. But so, but I thought the artwork was really nice in this book, too. Definitely recognized all the characters right away. So
I thought that the Doctor's drawing was a little bit inconsistent, but everyone else was pretty good.
Yeah, I give that.
The Doctor being the emergency medical hologram.
Yeah, so with that, this story features Bones from the original series. Featured even, help me out here.
Phlox?
Well, Phlox is there from Enterprise.
Pulaski,
Crusher. Bashir, the Doctor. I guess what I was trying to say is Dr. Mbago?
Oh, Mbunga, yeah.
Mbunga, yeah. Who, God, he was in one episode of the original series,
I think he was in Galileo 7 or something.
Oh, yeah, he was, yeah.
Oh, actually, then two, because he shows up later in actually sickbay at some point.
Yeah, okay. Remember. So there was just a great appearance by him. We get brief appearances from... no, I'm thinking of a different book. Never mind, forget that. So, but we have basically as many doctors as they can cram into this story, which I thought was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the premise is that...
I was trying to see, by the way, in that meeting... So the issue starts off and there's like a medical conference at some... I can't remember the name of it now, but some space station. And I was trying to see in that panel where there's a whole bunch of people, if there was anyone else I could recognize.
The way the faces were drawn, it almost seems like they were direct references to people, but I couldn't recognize them.
Yeah, I didn't recognize anyone else.
So, but yeah, I thought it was really cool that all those guys were there. And the idea is that there's some sort of virus or illness that's turning people into stone, hence the name of the book, Flesh and Stone. And they don't know what's causing it, but they find out that there may have been a first occurrence of this back in Bones era, the original TOS era. So we have sort of the Next Generation through Voyager era doctors working in the present, and then we go back to the past and get some great scenes with Dr. Phlox, who apparently was still around in the TOS era, working with Bones and Dr. Mbega. Oh, and Nurse Chapel was there.
Yep.
So, and I got to say too, again, huge compliments to Scott and Dave Tipton. When they spoke to Bones, man, it sounded like Bones. I thought Phlox was written just like Phlox would be speaking. Dr. Crusher, I don't know that I got a lot of Crusher out of her, but Pulaski was just as bit the
shrew.
The shrew, yes, that she is known for being. Yeah. So really, I just enjoyed the book overall. I do kind of wish it was longer than a single issue. They seemed like as soon as they figured out what was going on, they wrapped it up and it was over.
Yeah, and it ended very abruptly with Pulaski and the Doctor like jamming a hypospray in. It's like, that's it.
Well, and then even still, like the Doctor's like, let me give you 6 panels of exposition, wrapping everything up while we're hypospraying this guy. So I think it could have served from even maybe a second issue, maybe a 2-issue story.
Based on the cover, like you know right away that all these doctors are going to interact in some way. I didn't know how. So as I was reading through the book, I was like, it's probably going to be time travel or something.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that too when I saw it.
About halfway through the book, it's like, this would be a little too late to try to set up something like time travel.
Yeah.
And then you end up just having Bones in memory, really, go back and interact with Phlox. So Phlox didn't really get to interact with all the other doctors, which is a little bit disappointing. And also, I wanted the disease to be something significant. I don't know. I was expecting, like when I first saw, they're turning into stone, I was trying to rack my brain. It's like, was this in an episode somewhere? Did this actually happen? Not that I can remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
And they didn't seem to leave any hints toward that. We saw the Tholians a little bit.
Yeah.
So that was
and in fact, we saw the Tholians back in the original series era, which never happened.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting. So, but they, of course, looked like they did on Star Trek Enterprise.
Yep.
So, but I think that overall the story was really fun. It was great to see all these doctors together. I am kind of sorry that this seems to be the only sort of experiment like this where they get everybody together. I mean, I think it'd be really cool if they got all the engineers together. We got Scotty, and Scotty's actually in the Next Generation era. It's been established. So you have like Scotty, Geordi, O'Brien, and B'Elanna, I guess. But get them all together. Maybe throw Seven in there instead of B'Elanna. But like get them all together and tell the full story. Yeah, exactly, right? So, but I would love to see more of this stuff. So, if anybody from IDW actually watches this show, please give us another issue. I'd be glad to pick it up. So, but if you guys are Star Trek fans, I think you'll like the book a lot. If you're not familiar with Star Trek, I do think that this book's going to be a bit hard to get into. There's a lot of continuity, a lot of history, a lot of character interactions. They kind of expect you to already know going into it because they don't have a lot of time for setup. Mm-hmm. So, but as a Star Trek fan, the book was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, well, let's move on then to our gaming updates. We're going to finish with our Geek TV. We forgot to mention a story that was in our notes for last week. Some Disney Infinity news came out. We got our first leaked image of what the Power Disc packs are going to look like when Disney Infinity 3.0 comes out this fall.
Yep.
Now, previously, the Power Disc packs for Disney Infinity 1.0 and 2.0 have been blind bags, which has been as much fun as it has been frustrating trying to get all the discs that you want.
Yep.
Now, I guess, Greg, why don't you go ahead and tell us now how they're doing it?
So, firstly, they're not going to be blind bags anymore. They're going to be disc packs, and it's been like somewhat confirmed, but not entirely confirmed, that they're all going to be 4 discs per pack, and it was going to be $10 per pack, as I recall. So basically, price-wise, they're very similar to buying blind bags, but you're actually guaranteed to get the thing you're going for now. So you're going to end up spending less money, which is good. Also, they're not going to have rare discs anymore. That's just a thing of the past. They'll just have the power discs that you want.
I guess rare wouldn't matter if they're showing you what you're getting to begin with anyway.
Yeah,
but rare never really mattered anyway. It seemed like there was the same number of everything out there. They just chose to make some rare.
Yeah, the rares didn't ever seem particularly rare. There are some discs that are rare just by happenstance
promotion or whatever
demand, but they weren't necessarily the discs labeled as rare.
I mean, if you guys watch, I have a bunch of videos where I unbag power discs back when 2.0 came out. I think I got 3 Infinity Gauntlets, and I never even picked up some like basic ones like the Spider-Man motorcycle or things like that. I mean, it's just like, it really seems like they just randomly assigned this is going to be the rare one, but we're not changing the packing order or anything. So.
Yeah.
But,
so also we got more information on Inside Out and Star Wars stuff. So a leak that occurred, firstly, and so this is just a rumor, but it'll probably be confirmed before too long, is that 4 characters from Star Wars Rebels are going to have figures in the game. I don't know the characters from Rebels. I'm sorry, I don't watch the show. But I know some people are complaining that Hera wasn't one of them.
Is she the female?
I'm assuming, yeah.
But they can't pack her into the playset.
Well, and that's the thing. There hasn't been a playset confirmed yet.
Okay.
So if we have those characters, so far they've said in the past that all of the Star Wars characters will be able to cross over into all the different playsets. There will just be a crossover coin you have to collect. So it's possible that those Rebels figures won't have their own playset yet.
Okay.
But I would be surprised by that. I think we'll see. We've got the OT playset, the original trilogy playset. We've got the Clone Wars playset, and it's highly anticipated that there will be a Force Awakens playset later. Doing a Rebels playset also, that would be 4 playsets for Star Wars in one game, which is a lot, but also aligns with Best Buy's prediction that there would be 4 Star Wars playsets, 2 Marvel playsets, and 2 Disney original playsets.
And is E3 next week? So we should know.
It's pretty close. I don't know if it's next week, but yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll get more info on that soon. Also, the details about the Inside Out playset. We know it's going to be platforming centered, not combat centered, which is the first time I think that's going to happen. Although I haven't played the Cars playset, I'm assuming that's not combat. Yeah. We've seen some video of it, and it looks like there's going to be some 2D portions and some 3D portions. The Inside Out characters, we haven't seen any of their melee attacks yet, if they even have them. But we have seen them throw the memory orb.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a thing. They'll at least have ranged attacks. Also, they confirmed that there will be a little cutout on the base of the Inside Out figures that allows, when you place them on the Disney Infinity base, the light to go through and light up their memory orb.
Oh,
which is cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's what we've got on Disney Infinity so far.
Okay, well that's pretty cool then. So for more information on Disney Infinity, guys, always check out DisneyInfinityCodes.com. Greg and his coworker on that website, they really do a lot to keep you guys updated on that. And as more leaks happen, you'll probably be able to see them first on that website, and then we'll of course discuss them in detail here on the show.
And we've got all the deals. Like I do a weekly deals post, and I've got pre-order info for all of the different playsets and stuff in there. So check it out if you're interested.
All right. Well, then let's move on to some other gaming news really quick, and then we'll go back to Geek Television.
Actually, one more thing. It just occurred to me. This is also a rumor, but Infinity Inquirer was reporting earlier today that in Best Buy's system, they have the 3.0 release date listed as August 23rd.
That seems early.
It does seem early. It's actually the same date as 1.0.
Oh, okay. Because 2.0 is definitely September.
But there's also, like, it said 2018 in the catalog they had. So, and the Infinity Inquirer guy noted that there are actually some other games where the release date is confirmed and it still says 2018. So that might just be an entry error.
Okay.
But yeah, I just figured I might as well drop that, since if it's true, hey,
yeah, right.
Got that info out there.
So, all right, well, let's move on then to just a little bit more here from gaming. Batman Arkham Knights, some interesting stuff came out. Steam has a pre-order listed. If you look up the game, that tells you if you pre-order the game, you get the Batman Beyond and the Dark Knight Returns costumes. I believe they're calling it the Future Pre-Order Pack or something like that.
And I think there's actually a $10 discount on Arkham Knight plus the Season Pass on Steam right now.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. Okay, well, if you guys play on PC, definitely keep that in mind.
Yep.
So it's just interesting that yet another set of costumes has been released for this game, another pre-order incentive. Honestly, I love that the Batman Beyond costume is going to be in the game, although it's not really the Batman Beyond costume. It's the Arkham Knight costume with a red bat on the chest. But the Dark Knight Returns costume is totally Dark Knight Returns. Batman looks a little young because he's using the face of the regular character model, but the costume is totally Batman Returns.
Have you seen the new trailer they released?
No, so go ahead and tell us about the new trailer.
There was not a whole lot of new stuff in it. I mean, we saw him flying around the city. We saw the car combat, kind of the stuff we've already seen in other trailers. Excuse me. One thing that did stand out as a little bit strange to me, but I guess you won't have anything to say because you haven't seen it. Conroy's voice sounded a little bit off to me, but maybe that's just me.
Okay. Well, check out the trailer, guys, and see all the new stuff that there is there to see, and definitely be mindful that we might be getting some more as we head into E3 and as the game comes out in June. Might be some more pre-order news coming out on top of everything else going on with that game. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and talk about Geek TV. We're going to spend a little bit of time on this week. This past season, we had Flash, we had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we had Arrow, we had Gotham, we had Agent Carter. There was also Constantine, which we just didn't have time to watch. But really, 5 shows that we were covering. Lots of comic book television, and it's only getting bigger next season. So let's go and talk then, I guess, about...
Next season, hold on. We've got Legends of Tomorrow. We've got Supergirl. We've got, I think, the Luke Cage series is coming.
Oh, yeah, it's a Netflix, and we're also getting Jessica Jones this fall. So it's going to be a lot. Plus, Daredevil Season 2 is in production. It will probably be airing sometime, maybe February next year.
So we're going to have, 5 more shows, and all of these shows were renewed.
Yes.
So 10 shows.
It's an amazing
I don't know if we're going to be able
fan.
to keep on top of all of them. But we'll probably pick and choose the ones that we like the most and keep reviewing those.
So, but anyway, let's go ahead and talk then, I guess. We want to start maybe with, let's do Gotham then. Gotham is kind of the most separate from the other ones. Gotham, I think, had a very interesting start to the series.
I think they had, my opinion, just in a short blurb, weak start, strong middle, okay finish.
Okay, I would say that. I think I got a little more out of the finish than you might have. And granted, I missed the whole Harvey Dent story arc. I did think that the beginning was a little weak, a little rushed. I don't know that we needed to have Batman's parents die in the very first episode.
No, I think they're still regretting that one.
Yeah, maybe they could have died halfway through season 1. Or maybe even made it 4 or 5 episodes. Then I don't know. So, but as far as, I guess, characters on the show, what did you think of characters that were brought in? I mean, obviously, Fish Mooney was pretty controversial. But I think that the Riddler character up until the end, I really enjoyed the way that they were handling him on the show. I think Harvey Bullock is probably one of the more entertaining characters, one of the more fun characters to see. I actually liked Gordon the more I watched the show. He was a little off-put by him at the beginning. I enjoy Alfred, but I think if I had to pick my standout characters from season 1, I would probably say it's the Penguin, for sure.
Yep.
I would say that...
Falcone was really good.
Falcone, yeah.
Exactly what I wanted out of him.
Exactly. And I think Bullock. Those are probably my 3 most favorite characters to see on TV at any one time.
I would probably agree with that list. Yeah, I'm just thinking through the characters. I mean, Riddler was really good. Catwoman was okay for being a child actress. I thought she was pretty good. Bruce was okay most of the time. Like there were some really strange things, but and Alfred I thought was pretty good too.
Yeah. Okay. So were there any characters that really let you down?
I didn't particularly like Maroni. The idea of having a guy who has clearly a strong Cubano accent playing an Italian mafia guy, I don't know, it didn't work for me. Ivy I thought was kind of disappointing.
We didn't really get anything with her, did we? I mean,
there were like 3 or 4 episodes where she appears, and for the most part, she was pretty flat. Barbara had a stronger finish than a start. Obviously, there's been lots of stuff said about Barbara. I don't think I need to say any more about that. Also, we had Montoya, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but there were 2 characters from Internal Affairs, I want to say, that showed up, and they were more of a presence early in the season and then kind of disappeared in the last part of the season.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. Fish Mooney, obviously a disappointment. Fish Mooney is such a disappointment. I think she drove a lot of people away from the show.
Yeah.
I know John Weston, a friend of mine in China, was watching it and actually stopped watching the show about 2 episodes into the Dollmaker Island arc. He just stopped caring, basically.
Okay.
Fish Mooney literally drove him away from the show.
And I've got to speak to that too. I think Dollmaker was a character that did nothing for me.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a disappointment for me on the show.
It's such a pointless setup. And Ogre, too, I thought was pretty pointless, too.
So the show definitely has some stuff that they can do next season. Obviously, which we already mentioned, Bruce found the Batcave at the end of the series, or the end of the season, so that's pretty good. I mean, Riddler seems to be Riddler for all intents and purposes now. I kind of missed the guy we had before. We'll see how reserved he is. I don't want him to be completely maniacal because that's my interpretation of the Riddler. So we'll see where that goes in season 2. But I'd love to see more Harvey. I really like the relationship that Gordon has with, what's his name? The guy in charge of the police force. Yes. Yeah. I love that interaction, and I want to see more with that. So
that'll probably be the focus of season 2, at least as far as Gordon.
Yeah. So, and then I guess I don't have a problem with... the coroner.
Lee.
Lee, yeah. I don't have a problem with Lee. I don't dislike her. I don't like her, but she certainly seems to be helping make Gordon more interesting as a character.
And my understanding, I haven't done a whole lot of Batman diving, but she's more important in older age to Batman. Oh. Like, as she gets older, she will be more like of a confidant to Batman.
Okay, you know what? That sounds vaguely familiar. I don't read a lot of Batman comics, but yeah, that does sound familiar. So, I don't know if that's going into as much detail as you guys might like, but that's kind of what we think about Gotham. Yeah, if you had your choice of starting with all 5 of these shows, you probably don't want to, or picking any one of these shows to start with, probably set Gotham to the side, just get to it when you have time.
Yeah, and it doesn't actually fit into Arrowverse or anything else.
Exactly, so yeah, it's definitely isolated. So if you don't have a lot of time, maybe Gotham's the only show you want to be invested in. So, let's go ahead and then move on to, we'll stay with DC. So I missed pretty much all of Arrow.
You've seen all the way through season 2. You just haven't.
I've seen all the way through season 2, yeah, but I haven't seen anything of season 3. And with Flash, I saw 2 episodes of this season, but I thought they were phenomenal episodes. So why don't you go ahead and just give us kind of your thoughts on those seasons as well.
Okay, so I won't be the only one to say this, but Arrow was kind of a disappointment this season. You had some interesting plot lines, like with the Ra's al Ghul stuff, which consumed basically the entire second half of the season. But the interactions between Oliver and Felicity were a huge disappointment. Personally, and I'm sure, again, I'm not the first to say this, based on the ending of last season, where you had Oliver kind of fake tell Felicity that he loved her, and that was his hint for
that was awful.
Deathstroke.
Yeah.
Well, except that I thought the way they executed that was great, except that the start of season 3, where apparently they are actually in love, completely ruined that.
Okay.
It's like they didn't even understand their own plot twist. Because my reading of the end of season 2, what I thought they were doing was Oliver took Felicity to his mansion, said that he loved her so that Slade would kidnap her.
Yep.
And basically take his focus off of Laurel. Mm-hmm. And then that gave Felicity the opportunity to stab him with the Mercure cure.
Yeah.
But then at the beginning of season 3, they act like there's this weird love situation between the two of them. Like, no. Oliver was lying to trick Slade. Like, how did this actually become a relationship?
And the drama of that finale, too, is the fact that, and we don't know it at the time, but Felicity seems to be really into it. Yeah. And then you find out that it was just a lie the whole time, and you can tell that she's really sad about it.
Yeah, I thought that was such a great place to go with that, because I think I even said at the end of season 2, I don't think they'll ever do Oliver and Felicity.
Yeah, it really seemed like it.
I felt like basically her role as a character, not solely, but at least as far as she interacts with Oliver, was that she would be kind of the hero worshiper, and he would be kind of the stoic, never gives her the time of day.
Yeah.
You know, like he helps her. Like they did some bits in season 2 where I think he helps her train and stuff like that. But I really did not expect them to go into that relationship, and it consumed so much of the season. I really feel like it brought the whole season down, and it just wasn't very interesting. We had Diggle get married to Lila again, and they had a baby, and whatever. Sarah died, but that's getting reset by Legends of Tomorrow. Like, it really felt like a kind of a waste of the season. And the guy who played Ra's al Ghul was pretty good, but now he's gone too, so...
Do you think that the show would have been any different had Liam Neeson actually showed up to play Ra's al Ghul?
It definitely would have been different. I don't know that it would have been better, but yeah, I thought the guy who did Ross was fine. Okay. It's just that the whole plot was kind of a waste of time, especially once you find out that Oliver was faking it the whole time. So I don't know. At the end of the series or season, Oliver and Felicity drove off into the sunset, and I'm assuming they're going to Coast City because there were lots of Coast City hints dropped.
Okay.
And it's been largely hinted that Damien Darhk will be the villain next season, and that he might, in fact, be Felicity's father.
Okay.
And Damien Darhk has, at least in the comics, I think, has some water from the Lazarus Pit.
Oh.
So it's possible that Damien Darhk will be young as well, and be like Felicity's age, and still be a big villain.
Okay.
So what I expect to see happen is something like Oliver and Felicity are off enjoying their time in Coast City, being away from being Arrow and heroes and all of that. And then Damien Darhk shows up in Central City, or Star City rather. We'll get to Central City in a second. Starling City. And that he starts messing around there, and Felicity's like, oh crap, we have to go back. Yeah. So that's kind of where I expect the next season to go. Flash was definitely the biggest surprise and the biggest delight of the season.
Yeah,
like, out of all the shows, I think it was the one I enjoyed the most, and especially expecting to enjoy it, not the least, but really just not going into it thinking this would become my favorite show.
He honestly didn't seem like a lot on his appearances on Arrow. I mean, they didn't really build him up to be the next big thing. He was just kind of this guest star. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
the strongest part of Flash is the performances on the show are just great. Like Grant Gustin is great, Jesse Martin is great. Rick Cosnett was pretty good as Eddie, and of course Tom Cavanaugh just stole every scene he was in.
Yep.
So yeah, I thought the pacing on the show was excellent. I really hope they can keep it up.
I wonder about that too.
Yeah, but from what I've read, there's just so much that happens in the Flash comics. It's certainly possible for them to keep that up. I mean, you've got people from all sorts of different timelines and lots of the whole Allen/West dynasty of Flashes, and
they could bring in a Flash guest character again. Yeah,
there are so many different places they could go, and they've hinted Jay Garrick, so you don't even have to stick in the Allen/West dynasty. So.
I mean, completely off the wall, but they've got the original TV Flash on the show too. I mean, they could always turn the show on its head and say, hey, by the way, I'm a Flash and I never told you.
It might be a little too on the nose, but they could also have John Wesley Shipp playing Jay Garrick Flash.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
That'd be pretty ridiculous.
So, all right, yeah. So Flash overall was really great.
Oh,
I mean, that's a show that you guys definitely want to check out. Again, my exposure to it was a little bit more, definitely more limited than yours was. But I was not disappointed when I saw, and I've got to say that the acting and the emotion that's being brought by the actors on that show, I think, is definitely notable and something that you should look forward to if you check the show out. So. Well, then let's go ahead and move on to what Marvel was offering. Let's talk Agent Carter first, since it was a shorter season. Now, we already kind of talked about our thoughts on Agent Carter a couple months back when that show ended, but I just need to reiterate, that show is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a good show.
And I was really kind of hoping when we didn't know if it was getting a season 2 or not that they'd just leave it off at the end of season 1, because it's such a self-contained 8-episode sequel to Captain America. Mm-hmm. It really plays out really well. I don't think there's a wasted episode on the show. All the character interactions, I think, play off really well. And there's a great setup at the beginning that has a nice payoff at the end of it. And then there's the whole subplot of Peggy needing to let go of Steven Rogers, because she still hasn't really done that. Mm-hmm. All of that's kind of rolled into this season. We also get Howard Stark showing up as a great recurring character. And then we get Jarvis.
And Jarvis is great.
Yeah. I don't think we could have... I mean, Marvel's done a pretty good job of writing and of casting, but Jarvis ended up being such a likable character by the end of that series, and you never really knew until the end. I mean, you suspected maybe early on in the series that he was, more of a hero maybe than he was letting on, but they never really took it that direction. I kind of like that. He really was just like the butler, the helper the entire time. So, and I love that they didn't do some sort of forced relationship between Peggy and Jarvis. I also like that they never had Peggy get together with Sousa, which it seemed like they may have been.
It's gonna happen.
You think so?
Yeah, season 2.
Because now that she's over Steve.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
I mean, I think they decided, probably, and it was a great decision, to be more focused and not have there be a Peggy romance.
Yeah.
Just because with 8 episodes, they really didn't have time for it. I think if they're given more episodes, they'll do that.
You think so?
For sure.
I want them coming back as an 8-episode season again.
Yeah, well, see,
mid-season filler. Yeah,
I would have no problem at all with Agent Carter tidying the gap while Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is on break.
Yeah.
That sounds great to me.
And I think that's DC's already or DC Warner Brothers is kind of taking Marvel's lead on that. I think Legends of Tomorrow is supposed to air January next year, which would seem to suggest it's going to be a mid-season replacement for Flash.
It's also going to be 13 episodes.
Is it? Okay, well, there you go. So.
Flash was originally slated to be 13 or 14 episodes.
Okay.
But it was so popular they decided to order more.
Okay.
So it's possible that could also happen for Legends of Tomorrow. I don't really see that
Yeah,
happening.
that show really needs to prove itself, I think.
I mean, even for me, who enjoys Flash a lot and watches Arrow, and at least enjoyed it up until this season, it's going to be a tough sell for Legends of Tomorrow. Just adding another show in, I just look at that as I'll probably give it a try, but it's got to be good.
Yeah. Well, they need a concise story, I think. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm sure we'll get some sprinklings of that show as Flash and Arrow head to the mid-season point. But one thing that Marvel didn't, I take that back. They did kind of sprinkle in some Peggy Carter. Talking about the crossover between Agent Carter and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I was kind of expecting that as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. progressed, that with the Daniel Whitehall story, we would see... Daniel Whitehall existed during World War II, so I was completely expecting them to say, well, S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be left with a mystery at the mid-season cliffhanger, and we're going to watch Agent Carter and figure out what led up to this point, and they didn't do that. And I really appreciated that both shows stood on their own this season. I did think S.H.I.E.L.D., I guess, suffered a little bit. I hate to say suffer, but the first half of the season, I think, almost felt like its own season unto itself, and season 2 felt like almost like a season 2.5 or just a third season. So I don't know that if you watch all the episodes together that you're going to, by the time you start with the first episode and get to the last one, that a lot of the same plot threads from the first episode are really carrying over. But I think in doing that gave them a really strong season, especially up to the halfway point. I do think season 2 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. struggled a little bit. I don't think that second S.H.I.E.L.D. storyline was ever really as developed as it needed to be. I felt like up until his demise, Edward James Olmos' character just didn't feel like he needed to be there. He felt like he was just an antagonist for the sake of being an antagonist, just being disagreeable.
And it really seemed like they were trying to pull a fast one on you there, so that when he sits down with Jia Ying at the end, you'd be like, oh, well, he's going to be the bastard. And then it turns out to be Jia Ying, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Except that the way that Dicha and Lachman played Jia Ying, she was kind of sinister the entire time.
Yeah.
It's like I never really trusted her. I trusted Cal more than I trusted her.
Well, and I gotta say, let's talk about Kyle Maclachlan.
Yeah.
Fantastic addition to the cast
Absolutely.
this season. I mean, he was probably the strongest acting presence on the show the entire season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not unbiased in this because I watched Twin Peaks and loved that show at least until halfway through the second season or so.
Yeah.
But he was so great on that show. So just even seeing him on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Kyle Maclachlan.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was definitely one of my favorite parts of the show.
And they started him off too as a kind of a terrifying presence. And by the end of the series, man, you're really pulling for this guy. You're like, he just wants to be with his daughter. His means are certainly unorthodox. Yep. But he's not really a bad guy. Yeah, he's murdered people, but he was severely wronged, not only by those around him, but honestly by his wife.
Yeah, horribly manipulated by her.
Yeah, so I mean, it was just such a tragic story, and I'm glad that they put him through the Tahiti Project at the end of the season. It's not going to work because it didn't work on Coulson. So at some point we're going to get Cal back and knowing exactly what's going on.
We'll see him again. I don't know if it'll be in season 3. Probably not. Maybe just a passing reference or something.
I don't know because I started to think we aren't going to ever see Deathlock again, and then he came back for that one episode. So I mean, would we get one episode with Kyle Maclachlan?
It's possible. I don't know that they would want to do a He Remembers Everything plotline in just one episode, or maybe that's exactly what they'd want to do. Maybe they wouldn't want to have him be multi-episode arc again. So if we do see him again, it'll just be, the memory wipe didn't take, and we're going to resolve this in the next 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with your characterization of the second S.H.I.E.L.D. plot line. Also, and I don't mean to hammer this point in, but Jia Ying, just the way that they changed her powers in the last episode felt cheap. It felt like they were really trying to turn her evil, because up until that point, you'd kind of assume she just has this passive regeneration ability. Yeah. Then suddenly it becomes, oh no, she must take the power from other people, which makes no sense at all as far as how she would come back to life after having been vivisected.
Yeah, right.
Like, what did she...
I guess she doesn't have to be conscious for it to work.
Yeah, and it just doesn't make sense, because then now that means she's not actually dead then. Like, there's just so many things that it I don't know, it felt like they were trying to make her suddenly much more evil.
Totally agree.
And it felt unnecessary. They could have not done that particular twist, and it still would have worked the way they did it. Yep. So it just felt cheap the way they did that.
Yep. Wasn't a fan of that.
I was also sad that Agent 33 is gone now.
Yeah. I mean, story-wise, I really like the way that they took her out.
Yeah, it made sense. Like, I'm not complaining about that, but yeah.
Yeah, and especially for motivation for Ward, man. That guy is getting so twisted. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, but yeah, it is kind of sad, because Ward did kind of have a character that we were starting to get familiar with, and now he's back with a bunch of nameless thugs, kind of like it was at the end of season 1. Mm-hmm. He needs somebody, I think, that we need to attach to. I loved John Garrett. I thought that was a great character for him to play off of. He was still a guy who was trying to manipulate Ward at the same time, though. And with Agent 33, it was almost like Ward was now the Garrett character trying to manipulate Agent 33. But now Ward's by himself again. So I'm hoping we get somebody meaningful for him to play off of. Also, as far as the new characters that were introduced this season, I was very much... I wasn't cool with... not Bobby... Hunter. I wasn't cool with Hunter at the beginning of season 1, because they really just drop him in the season. I think even before you see the main cast, you're seeing Hunter. And they really were just kind of playing this guy up right out of the gate like a big person you need to care about. And it's just like, who is this guy? And why are you forcing him down my throat? But by the end of season 2...
Turns out he's great, though.
Yeah, exactly, right? By the end of season 2, he's really an enjoyable character, and he really feels like a member of the S.H.I.E.L.D. family that you don't want to see move off in his own direction.
Did you feel at all like they kind of glossed over the Fitz arc by the end of the season?
They did, because, I mean, especially if you look at that, just the first episode back from season 2.
He was so broken. Yeah. And now he's just not at all.
And that almost seems, they almost resolved that by the end of the first half of season 2. So yeah, he kind of got over it kind of quickly. Although I got to be honest, I don't know how long I'd want to see Fitz struggling and being incapable and everyone having to coddle him.
It's less for me an issue of like him getting over it quickly and more of him getting over it magically.
Okay.
It's just like there was no clear reason why he would have gotten better, but suddenly he just started behaving better, you know? It's like, I don't feel like he had sufficient reason to recover.
Especially with like the amount of brain damage they said he had.
Yeah, it's just like, what happened? Did I miss something? Was there an episode where they addressed this more clearly? Because it's like, suddenly I just noticed, wait, wasn't he supposed to be...
So is there would you have liked another story arc kind of devoted to the repair of Fitz then, or?
Maybe. I mean, at least an episode or something, or even a passing mention. Somebody's like, Fitz, you're doing really well. And he's like, oh yes, I guess I am. Or something, you know, I don't...
So, no, I see where you're coming from. So maybe they just didn't have time for it. Who knows?
But I do have to say, I think that the final reveal of May's cavalry story was hugely satisfying.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Especially,
it's hard to build something up over 2 seasons and then have it be satisfying.
Yeah.
And I thought they did really well.
And I'm almost curious now. I've seen season 1 all the way through twice now, but now I feel like I want to watch season 1 again. And when they're talking about the cavalry, just that... They didn't have any inconsistencies. I mean, of course, the inconsistency was that nobody was consistent. Mm-hmm. But hearing the stories now on what their interpretation of the events was, I just would carry such a different meaning, I think.
I've seen some people online talking about little hints that they've noticed here and there. They actually do seem to have set some stuff up. Okay. I think the change to it being Inhumans was probably sort of, not last minute necessarily, but certainly aligned with Marvel's new
cinematic direction.
Yeah. But, yeah.
So... But yeah, so May had a great arc over the course of the season, and we even got Blair Underwood as her now boyfriend again, I guess, maybe. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I thought he was a great sort of guest star, and I certainly don't... I would look forward to seeing him again in season 3, and I think we're going to get that chance. Coulson was in an interesting place at the beginning of season 2 with the alien writing. He really seems to be completely over that at this point, which they kind of acknowledge on the show, too, the fact that once they found the lost city, everything was done, and his mission to get there was over with. So again, that's something they probably could have gotten more mileage out of, but at the same time, we may have gotten bored by it. So I like that they kind of ended that when they did.
Yeah, it would have been disappointing if we had made it all the way through season 2 and he was still having issues with that.
Lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was really good. I think all the development we got out of it. Definitely with the Fitzsimmons angle. Yeah, Fitz started pretty damaged at the beginning of season 2. Simmons is pretty vindictive now.
Yeah.
I mean, she's almost a wild card as far as her personality goes, and even more so now with the way that season 2 ended, where she was absorbed into whatever that alien device was.
Yeah, I don't think for a second she's dead.
I don't either.
No.
I think she's going to come back at the beginning of season 3, not even acknowledge that anything had happened to her, and we're going to see some weird stuff going on.
I've heard some speculation on the Big Rock. Do you want to?
Yeah, let's have the speculation.
Okay, so there is an Inhuman, and I can't remember his name now, but basically he's a door.
Okay.
He's a giant rock that is a doorway to other places. I think he can take you to like Adelan and stuff like that. And I've heard it speculated that the rock is actually an Inhuman and it can take you places, which is
interesting.
It's interesting because the Elizabeth Henstridge, I think, the Simmons actress, says that she doesn't think she's dead. She thinks she just got taken somewhere or teleported somewhere. So that would support that theory.
Well, with that in mind, then, what are the odds? And I seriously doubt this will happen, and if it does, it'll be minimal effect to both the show and the cinematic universe. What are the odds of ending up on Nowhere?
That would be, quite a crossover.
Yeah.
Certainly.
But then at the same time, we know that the movies affect the show more than the show affects the movie. So if she did end up in Nowhere, it would almost have to be something that's such an insignificant story that there's no reason for the Guardians to ever mention it, no reason for any of that to happen. So, but it'd be interesting to see. I mean,
and do you think? I mean, this is kind of out there, but will there be any crossover between Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Guardians cartoon?
I doubt it.
You don't think so?
Yeah, I mean, there hasn't really. Agent Coulson is the principal on the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, and they've never alluded to any sort of day job or side job like that for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay. So, yeah, I don't think that'll happen. But what we do have to remember is that Ant-Man's coming out this summer. Now, much like Guardians of the Galaxy, there wasn't a lot of opportunity for season 1 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to tie into the show, aside from having that Kree body at the end of season 1. I wonder how much opportunity there is for Ant-Man to cross over with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I guess we'll see where that goes. But we are going to get a season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that rolls right into Captain America Civil War. So as the forces start building up, we're going to have another sort of interesting second half to season 2.
So we know that Whitehall could be back because he has Jia Ying's ability, and Jia Ying can apparently come back from anything.
Yeah.
Do you think we will see him again on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Agent Carter?
I would say there's probably a greater chance of him showing up in Agent Carter.
I would agree.
So, and perhaps he'll be in season 2 of that show. So
that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, so I suppose they could bring him back on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I think right now, I haven't seen a lot of reviews of the show, but I got to feel like there's a lot of people out there who are just disappointed by the payoff with Jia Ying as we are. They do best to just kind of avoid that at this point.
Yeah.
And S.H.I.E.L.D. never really made it clear or seemed to suggest that Whitehall was alive. And you think that they would have done something with his body. Something would have happened.
It was just a little bit anticlimactic to have Coulson just shoot him and have him die like that.
Right.
You know?
In fact, the big showdown wasn't even with Jia Ying. It was with Gordon.
Yeah.
In that great scene with Mac and Fitz and Coulson there at the end. Now, I guess we should also talk on the fact now that Coulson's missing an arm.
Yeah.
So...
And the fish oil.
And
so
the fish
many
oil.
things.
Okay, so yeah, so with the arm, Coulson loses his arm in the finale. This is a guy who we've discovered has been collecting parts for the Deathlock program and potentially trying to make his own superhuman school, as it were. I think Coulson's going to have a bionic arm at the beginning of season 2, or he'll be somehow miraculously healed, and maybe that'll be tied back to the GH formula.
I don't think he'll be healed, but it's entirely possible to have like a life model decoy level hand replacement.
Yeah,
and you just won't know. Like, I mean, I don't think it'll have a huge impact on the series that Coulson lost a hand.
You don't think it'll be like some sort of like he has a missile launcher in his arm?
Oh,
now?
he might.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think we'll see like, I don't know, very robotic hand that has to be covered up every episode or something.
Yeah, well, it's like he won't be wearing a glove all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, no, I think he'll have something, the near human replacement. And I think that they'll get you could probably get some mileage out of these new abilities that he's got.
Yep.
So So that'll be kind of interesting to see. And then what was the other thing we talked about? Oh, yeah, the fish oil. So I think the fish oil is going to be a catalyst to turn Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. very much into X-Men or Uncanny Inhumans, the series.
Yeah, they're basically using it as a replacement for the Terrigen bomb.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to have a lot of people showing up in Season 2 who have abilities, and S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be there to draft them as heroes or dispatch them. And we might get some pretty cool guest stars because of that.
Yep.
So... All right, so overall, I think, though, our opinions of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2, much like Agent Carter, were really good. I honestly think I might have enjoyed Agent Carter more, but that's not a disparagement to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2. I really liked, overall, how that series went.
I was just thinking, you're looking at those 5 shows, how would you rank them?
Off the top of my head, if I had to rank the shows, I would say I'd probably put Arrow at number 5. Granted, I've not really watched any of it, but I've heard your reviews. Mm-hmm. I'd put Gotham above that. Above that, I'd probably have... It's hard for me to say. I didn't see a lot of Flash, but I would probably say Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Flash, Agent Carter. That's how I'd stack it up. How would you stack it up?
Probably Arrow, Gotham, Agent Carter, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Flash.
Okay, so somewhat similar there.
Yeah, similar.
So, all right, guys, so that's a review of really this whole season of Geek TV. Granted, again, we didn't watch Constantine, but it's not back for season 2 anyway. So maybe that's our fault for not promoting it. Who knows? Yeah, maybe we should have been watching it. But if you guys really enjoyed these series, definitely let us know. And feel free to send us questions or even some feedback. Like, we were, I'd say, mostly positive on things that aren't Gotham or Arrow. So if you guys had any other things that you didn't really like about the show, let us know. We'll be glad to share them with everyone next week, too.
And I do have to say,
sure,
I liked all of the shows. I would say I liked Arrow the least, but I still liked it.
Well, and I did,
I'm a very critical person, and I criticize things that I really enjoy. It's just something I do. So even though I had a lot of problems with Arrow, I'd still rather watch that than a lot of other shows.
Okay, well, that's fair praise.
Yep.
So... but yeah, if you guys are watching these shows, awesome. Oh, we didn't even talk about Daredevil, but we also had our series wrap up of that. So there was a lot out there this season. So, but definitely tweet at us. Make sure you hashtag Project Geek Week, and we'll get your comments on the show. We'd like to interact with you guys. You can also let us know in the comments what you think. I was really happy to see all the people engaging with us on I kind of cut out the Marvel conversation from last week and put it in a separate video, and I really enjoyed all the interactions that we had through that. So we'd love to interact with you guys, and hope you're enjoying what you're watching here. Let's go ahead and talk about our pick of the week.
Sure.
My pick of the week is going to be the podcast Articulation Assembled. You can catch it on, I think, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and iTunes. It's a podcast that's done by action figure reviewer customizer Glenn Webb and a friend of his, Craig Warwick, who also has a YouTube channel. Glenn Webb's got a YouTube channel. They're, at least Glenn Webb, and I'm kind of getting to know Craig, are friends that I've made through the online review community, and I really enjoy the show that they're doing. They tend to have a focus on nostalgia and figure review first, and then they do talk about a bit of comic news too. But...
And Glenn has been really great at supporting our show here.
Oh,
too.
Absolutely.
Commenting on almost every episode, definitely watches them all.
So really appreciate that support from him, but I definitely think you guys should check out his show too. I think you guys will enjoy it. There was an episode on recently where they talked about their favorite television and toy, figures and lines that go together. So that was kind of a fun episode, and they do a lot of great topics. So definitely check that show out, give it a listen, and definitely give it a rate. Let them know that you're liking the show, or give them any sort of feedback. So that's my pick of the week.
I gotta also go with a show. I'm gonna give a shout out to Emergency Awesome, which I discovered this week, and I hope I haven't ripped off any of his ideas in what I've discussed. But I've definitely powered through a couple dozen of those videos just in the past few days, just because they're so interesting. And the main guy on the show, Charlie, is very well informed, I would say, on the things that he talks about. So. It's good to kind of get that wrap up of things, and especially if I'm right about to talk about them.
Right, yeah, definitely. So, well, definitely check out Articulation Assembled and check out Emergency Awesome. Some great programming there. But of course, keep checking us out as well. We'll be back next week at the new episode, guys. You can always tweet me at D21Beast or tweet Greg.
Yoshimitsu47.
All right, well, thanks for watching this week, guys. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll catch you next week.